Welcome back, it's me, Lou. I'm here for another action figure unboxing and review, and today we are featuring this wonderful 2-pack. This is a Amazon exclusive. It's Transformers, Optimus Prime, and Megatron. So as you'll notice, the packaging is very different. A lot of the Amazon exclusives come in like completely cardboard boxes. It doesn't look like the standard retail packaging. There's no window. It's actually really nice. I actually dig this a lot. Even though the box is, strictly black and white, I really dig the line work here. I think it looks very clean. You get really awesome illustrations of Optimus and Megatron. Underneath, there's the label, Optimus Prime and Megatron. Includes 2 figures, accessory, and instructions. The back of the box, it just strictly says, more than meets the eye. Alright, so let's get this opened up and check out these 2 really cool action figures. Okay, so we have Optimus Prime on our left and Megatron on our right. And underneath we have the instruction manual. So on the first side we have the instructions for transforming Optimus from his robot into his cab mode right over here. And then on the back we have Megatron and the instructions to transform him into the tank. So even though this is a Amazon exclusive, at least for me living in the United States, you might have seen these figures before at your local Walgreens. Megatron, I think originally his name, I'm not sure if this is what it was labeled when he was released as a single release figure, but this is also known as Cyber Battalion Megatron. Optimus, I think he's I don't think he was under the Cyber Battalion line, but if you're familiar with the Walgreens exclusive Transformer figures, they kind of come in a box that's maybe like half this size, and in the upper right corner it'll say like Transformers Authentics. Those figures generally retailed for about, I think, $14 to $16. I haven't seen either of these on the shelf in maybe a year or two. Megatron even maybe longer than that. The Megatron figure is one that I've wanted since day one, but I never pulled the trigger on it when it was in Walgreens. So for me, for Amazon to actually offer this 2-pack was kind of like a godsend, because this is a figure I've always wanted. Speaking of Amazon, I believe the retail price for this, I want to say it's maybe between $24 to $27, I think. I can't remember exactly. Alright, so let's get started and take these guys out. We'll start with Optimus first. Now, these are much more budget figures, so don't expect the same detail or articulation as you would like a premium Transformer figure, like, compared to like a studio series. A lot of the Transformer figures that are exclusive to Walgreens, they seem like they're aimed more so at younger fans and little kids, just because the transformations are a lot more simple. And let's get Megatron out too, but we'll take a look at him in a little bit. And don't forget Megatron's blaster, which is right there. Alright, so we have both of the figures out, and they look great. So, you know, I think a lot of the more hardcore fans, they're not really into these kind of, these toys, you know, heavy emphasis on toys. These are not premium collectibles by any means, but for me, I just love the way they look. A lot of the budget toys, even though their articulation and detail isn't on par with like a higher end premium Transformer product, I think they're still great looking figures. I love the design of a lot of these budget figures. You know, I do, you know, even though their articulation is limited, I think they're just really, you know, fantastic looking models to begin with. Let's take a look at Optimus. Now, from the front, he looks really cool, and as you can see, the paint application is very limited. You know, a lot of this is strictly the plastic. The color is strictly the plastic the toy's molded in. For example, you know, it's a lot of red plastic pieces, a lot of blue pieces. The only paint application that I spot right off the top of my head is the windows. And from the front, it looks amazing. It's a really cool design. But then once you start, you know, turning the figure around and viewing it from a profile view, you'll see this is where it's really a budget figure. You know, it's very flat, and it's also just very hollow. As you can see here, you know, it's a lot of hollow bits. But it's a fun toy, you know, heavy emphasis on toy. The detail and the line work is really nice. A lot of hard edges, a lot of clean lines, deep scribes. I do like the fact that even though this is a budget toy, they still took the time out to at least color the wheels. So you have black tires, silver wheels. Articulation wise, Optimus arms rotate. It's a nice, like, stiff rotation too. It doesn't feel very floppy. His elbows are nice and articulated, and they're indented, so there's some clicking to it, so they're not just going to flail around. So his arms move, elbows bend, elbows swivel. The wrists and fists are not articulated at all. They're just strictly static. His waist, I believe, is alright. So there is no waist articulation, but he's cut below the chest, so you get allowed for swivel there. His legs can kick up. It's a nice tight joint. They could kick out, I think, and you can hear they're ratcheted also. Nice indents. There is no knee articulation. There is no foot articulation. Now, if you're a customizer, I do like these figures a lot because since they're limited in articulation and since they don't have so many pieces, you know, it's very easy to touch these up with a little bit of paint. You know, if you wanted to give him like the silver stripes that run across the top of his arms, or if you want to color in the fists, you can easily do so. Now, unfortunately, he doesn't come with a weapon. It would be nice if they at least included a gun, but, you know, it's a budget toy, so you're not going to really get anything. Now, in terms of transforming this guy, I'm going to attempt to do this without the instructions. So, since this is a basic toy, I'm assuming it's going to be very intuitive. So, if I had to guess, you're going to rotate the chest. His head folds in. And I'm guessing this is done in just a couple of steps. I mean, just by looking at the figure, I kind of assumed that the transformation is very similar to the original G1 toy. And then you plug in the there's a peg there, socket there, plug the legs together, fold them back, and let me see. I think how does this work? Okay, so it collapses right under the waistline, and then the arms fold within themselves, and then they attach to the inside of the cab. And there you go. Here's Optimus Prime's cab mode. It's a very satisfying transformation, especially, you know, for me growing up in the 80s. It's almost identical to the original transformation of the of the old toy. And it's a pretty decent looking cab. You know, the only exception is that, you know, his feet kind of protrude at the top here. But for the most part, you know, it's Optimus Prime. It looks like what it's supposed to look like. Could it use more detailing? Yes. And if you're a customizer, you know, you can easily come in and just paint in more details. And it's something I might actually do with this toy because I already have a copy of this toy. I do have the single release version of this when it was at my Walgreens. The Megatron was a different story. The reason why I never pulled the trigger on the Megatron was because, in all honesty, I never saw it at any of my local stores. But the Optimus was a little bit more plentiful. And, you know, here's all the different views. Profile, front, top. So yeah, really decent figure. And let's transform him back. Very simple. Fold the legs back down. I think, or does the arms come first? We'll do the arms first. Take the arms apart, unplug them from the torso, remove them out. How do we take the head out? Head. There's a small slot there. Get your fingernail underneath. Lift the head up. Fold it until it snaps into place, and then lower his lower torso, rotate him at the chest, and then you can split the legs apart again, and then you have Optimus Prime. So even though this is a budget figure, oh, his head rotates also. All right, that's cool. So even though this is a budget figure, I do like it a lot. I think it makes a great desk toy. What's most important with this action figure, it's very child friendly. You know, it doesn't have like a million steps in its transformation. The pieces feel very sturdy, and it's something that, you know, a younger child could like easily handle and transform without any difficulty. So yeah, great figure. All right, so now let's move on to Megatron, the Big Baddie. Now, this, in all honesty, is actually one of my favorite Megatron designs, and it's just very unfortunate for me that it's relegated to like a very basic budget toy. Even though I do like the budget figures, I would love to have this design of Megatron, but like in a much more higher premium end collectible. Like if they actually released like a figure of this Megatron design, but you know, something that was a little bit more on par with like a Studio Series figure, I would love that. You know, this figure, it's about the same size as an older Voyager Transformer figure. And I'm a big fan of Megatron as a tank, even though I grew up during the 80s, and, you know, most of us remember Megatron being the gun. Tank Megatron is just something I really dig a lot. And there's something about this design, too. This kind of reminds me of the older IDW comics. So let's examine Megatron up close, and before we do, here's his fusion cannon. As you can see, this is one of the fewer pieces that actually has some paint application. It's black, it's gray plastic, but the barrel's painted black with some purple trim. And it's nice too, the purple is just enough to accent the figure, and you know, that complements the eyes also, which you can see are painted purple. And, you know, it matches the Decepticon emblem. So Megatron's fusion cannon, there's a peg right there. And you can either, I believe you can either plug it into his forearm up here or into his fist. Unfortunately, it won't plug into his fist. This closed area here isn't wide enough to fit his fist. So I believe you just plug it into his forearm, which is the more traditional sense, which is Megatron in the more traditional sense, where he has his, you know, fusion cannon on his forearm. So this is Megatron's robot mode, and I think the legs splay out just a little bit. And then are the ankles articulated? No. Okay, let's close these back in. All right, there we go. So we have Megatron. The details are okay. Some of the sculpting is a little bit more harder than others. Like his face looks a little soft, but then as you can see, some of the other lines have a little bit harder edges to it. The plastic he's molded in, it's kind of that gray swirly plastic. You know, I know a lot of fans aren't too keen on this. You know, I'm one of those fans included. It looks a little bit cheap, but, you know, this is a budget figure. Here's his back. As you can see, a lot of hollow pieces. But the detail is there, you know. You know, don't be fooled. You know, even though this is a budget toy, there is a great amount of, like, care and engineering and thought put into these toys. You know, the detail, it's still very, very well done. You know, they take the time out to, like, make sure there's all the tiny rivets and panels and vents. So it creates a very authentic looking robot design. Now, Megatron's head, you know, I can imagine some people not being too keen on this. You know, old bucket head, you know, it kind of looks like Megatron, but in other ways it even resembles Starscream in some aspects, especially around the cheeks, how it kind of has those wider, I don't know how to describe them, armor plating on the side of his head. Now, transformation for this guy, I'm going to have to use instructions because I'm not really sure what the tank mode is supposed to look like. Alright, so let's take a look at this. So first off, it instructs me to move his arms back like that. And it looks like once you have that done, they fold upward like so. His feet look like they swing up like that. And it looks like the legs are going to fold upon themselves. Oh, okay, this is turning out to be a little bit easier than I thought it would. Or is this right? And then the chest turns upward like that. Oh, that's cool. So when the chest folds upward, his head just automatically tucks into his chest. And then, as you can see, here's the fusion cannon. There's two pegs. And then there's a socket here and a socket there. And you just navigate this piece inside, and then you want to plug the peg into the socket on both sides. And let's do that on the other side. And then once you do that, there's a tab here that plugs the four arms together. And fold the legs down completely. And there you go. You have Megatron in his tank mode. I love the detailing on the treads and the wheels. It's really well done. You see all the tiny rivets. The wheel wells are nice and deep. The treads have some nice detail to them. And there's also, if you look carefully, there's wheels. So it allows Megatron to actually roll. So you can actually have him on your table. And he rolls smoothly, which is nice. Here's a profile view. And as you can see, I didn't tab the arms into the legs, which you could do. So it's a little bit more flush. His turret, it does not turn, unfortunately, but the fusion cannon does raise up and down, which is a nice detail. Here's a front view. I like the front view a lot. It looks really cool. You know, there's like the driver windows here and here. Overall, it's very, very solid figure. Really impressed with the transformation. So much like Optimus, this is something that I think is perfect for younger kids and younger Transformer fans. The transformation, it's very simple. It's very satisfying. Even for me as an older fan, I dig this a lot. That's one thing I like about these budget toys is that for me, growing up in the 80s, a lot of the Transformer figures, they did not require 30 steps to transform. For me, the faster you could transform it back into the robot mode or the vehicle mode, the better. And as you can see just now, I just did it in a couple of seconds. It's very intuitive. It's very natural. There's no parts forming with the exception of just moving around the fusion cannon. Yeah, so overall, great action figure. I really do think this 2-pack from Amazon is worth the price. You know, especially if you have younger ones, and you know, if you have younger ones and they're really into Transformers, and you don't feel, you know, if you're not keen on like sharing your premium collectibles with your kids because, you know, for fear of them might accidentally breaking them, you know, a 2-pack like this is a perfect thing for them. For one, the action figures, they're very large. You know, like I mentioned earlier, they're almost kind of like Voyager scale. Optimus comes in at 7.5 inches tall, and Megatron comes in at about 7.25. There's some nice weight to them. The plastic feels very durable. If you dropped it, I don't think anything would break or snap off. A lot of the joints are ratcheted also, so you know it's gonna withstand the test of time for a little bit. But yeah, overall, very solid 2-pack. Very impressed. So if I had to rate these figures on a scale of 1 to 10, I think they're both on par with each other. I think they're equal. I don't think one has anything over the other. The articulation seems the same on both of them. The detailing, you know, everything seems to balance out. You know, one figure isn't necessarily better than the other. The only thing is I do wish Optimus had a gun, but since he doesn't, you know, that's all right. But overall, I'd give these figures, you know, a solid 8. You know, no more or no less. I think they're perfect for younger ones. If you're an older collector, I think they make for great desk toys at your office. The easy transformations makes them fun to fiddle around with. Alright, so let's close this video off. Once again, my name is Lou. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer or subscriber, thank you so much for your support. So, until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I'll see you at the next one. Alright, later.